tears stream down my face. Intense, like crazy tears. When's the last time that a traumatic thought or feeling caused you to act in a way that you wouldn't normally? Maybe you leaned into a vice that's super unhealthy. Maybe you did something venomous to someone you actually really care about. These things dramatically impact our lives for the worse. So it's super important that we deal with our traumas in healthy and effective ways. With male suicide rates at an all-time high, a loneliness epidemic plaguing countless people, and more people every day becoming addicted to their smartphones, now more than ever, we need tools to deal with this and process our post-traumatic stress disorders, or even any type of stress or traumas that we're dealing with. So today I want to share a very specific story on EMDR therapy. It stands for eye movement desensitization and reprocessing therapy. It's a scientifically validated therapeutic technique that was designed by Francine Shapiro in the late 1980s. EMDR is particularly helpful at treating post-traumatic stress disorder, and it's also been used to treat anxiety, depression, and a wide range of different phobias. It genuinely turned the tides for me and helped change my life, and I genuinely believe that it can potentially save your life as well if you're considering extreme options. EMDR typically involves 8 phases through the treatment process, but each specialist is a bit different. So normally it would start with history taking and a treatment plan of the therapist kind of understanding your history and what your needs are, then kind of preparing everything and ensuring that the client is basically prepped with the right coping mechanisms. Then there's the assessment where the therapist identifies the target memory, the traumatic thing, and everything associated with it. Then begins the desensitization. This is where the client focuses on the traumatic memory while simultaneously experiencing the bilateral stimulation that we'll talk about. We then go to installation, where positive beliefs are installed to essentially replace the negative beliefs that are associated with the trauma. We go to the body scan, where the client is asked to hold the target memory in mind and identify residual physical tension. We go to closure, where this is kind of the therapist helping the client feel better, kind of debriefing them after the session. And then there's a reevaluation, which is kind of the touch-up after all of this. To focus on some of the neuroscience here, we want to look at the bilateral stimulation, or the BLS. This involves our eye movements. BLS is like the core component of EMDR. It's the most important thing here because what it's doing is it's allowing the different hemispheres of our brains to talk to each other. It's facilitating the communication between these two areas of the brain, and it's reprocessing as we deal with these traumas. It's thought that BLS mimics the natural state of REM while we sleep, where our eyes are moving back and forth, essentially helping us process our memories. Traumatic memories are often stored in the brain in a very dysfunctional way, leading to symptoms like flashbacks and severe emotional distress. EMDR therapy aims to transform these memories from a raw and emotionally charged state into a more adaptive form. The process of reprocessing involves reconsolidation, where old memories are altered when they're recalled and then stored again with new associations and emotional content. EMDR is based on the adaptive information processing model. And this basically suggests that mental health disorders come from when we don't properly understand or process a disturbing or unhealthy traumatic experience. By repeatedly focusing on the memory while going through the bilateral stimulation, what happens is your brain gets to separate the emotional intensity from the specific memory itself. So in time, it becomes easier and easier to talk about it without feeling that deep emotional intensity. It's really fascinating. All of this desensitization allows individuals to recall the trauma without being overwhelmed by the original emotional response. EMDR does a great job at taking all those negative thoughts and traumatic feelings and turning them from negative to a positive. There's a simple reframing in how you're looking at the event or the emotions and reprocessing them over and over and over again, through that bilateral stimulation. This cognitive restructuring is crucial for overcoming the detrimental psychological impacts of trauma. So I just threw a bunch of $10 words at you and big sentences and phrases and acronyms that kind of might not make sense. So, what does all of this mean? How does it work in practice? Well, I actually got to go to a therapist who specializes in EMDR therapy, and it completely changed my life. It was one of the craziest experiences, and it was very emotional at the same time. I wasn't really knowing what to expect going into it because I was pretty new to EMDR. I'd only heard about it in different books and articles here and there. So I was really interested to trying it. And when I finally did, I was just blown away at what happened. And the way that my therapist did it was, instead of doing the eye movement stuff that people normally tend to do, she actually gave me these two little probes that would vibrate that you'd hold in each of your hands. Because, and I agree with her on this, she said that when you sit there and you move your eyes back and forth to stimulate the bilateral stimulation, it's actually a bit too stimulating and it's too visual. You're like literally looking at stuff in the room. You're seeing the therapist. It's way too much. So she actually has you close your eyes and you hold these two little things that are attached to wires, and it goes all the way to this box that she has. And she's got the box going over there while she's talking to you. And it's kind of like a guided meditation. And these things are vibrating left, right, like vroom, 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 vroom. And while you're talking about this traumatic thing, this is constantly happening, and it's stimulating the different sides of your brain constantly as you're going through this, reliving the traumatic experience. So you're getting a lot of different perspectives, a lot of raw emotions and that negativity coming up from the surface. So even talking about it in the first place is extremely helpful and healthy. But what's fascinating is how the bilateral stimulation works, from what I described earlier in the video. So I'm doing this, and she gave me an interesting take on this. She said, okay, what I want you to do before we start is I want you to create a safe space in your mind, like visualize everything about it. I want this to be a place where you're incredibly happy, somewhere that's just pure bliss and joy. You're with the people you care about the most in life. You're just laughing. There's not a care in the world. Imagine what the weather is like. Imagine what the smells are, what type of food is present, if there is any, and really, really make it vibrant and vivid in your head and have that be your quote unquote safe space. So that was one thing I created in my head. Then she said, I want you to create a wise mind. And this is essentially this role model figure, this authority figure who you deeply respect and trust, who you go to for different pieces of advice. The wise mind could be a father figure, it could be a mother figure, it could be a friend, a teacher, any sort of strong, healthy role model in your life that you feel has a lot of wisdom that can help guide you through difficult times in your life. So she said, I want you to figure out who that person is and create a visual around that. What does it look like? Who is the wise mind? And put them next to your safe space. Then what she had me do is create a container. And the container is a place that only I know of. And it's a place where I can put all of my negativity, all of my hate, all of the things that just feel disgusting and wretched and venomous inside of me. I'm the only person that can access this container, and I'm the only one that can move things in and out of it. And so I, on my own, created this very detailed visual of where it was, what it looked like, how it functioned, and I got super creative with it and broke it down for her. So then I had my container. So I had my safe space, the place where you feel good and happy and yay, everything's great. And then you have your wise mind. That's like your strong, leadership, father figure, so to speak. And then you have your container. This is where you're putting all the crap that you don't want to deal with anymore. So I created those things. I'm thinking in my mind. She said, I want you to close your eyes. The things are going, it's like, it's going back and forth and back and forth. And she's talking to me about the traumatic experience that I was going through. And as I was talking about it, the first maybe 15 seconds was just kind of like, yeah, whatever, this thing happened and I really hate talking about it and whatever, it just sucks and is uncomfortable. And I started thinking more and more about the vibrating little probe things. And as I kept talking, the craziest thing happened. Just tears streamed down my face. Intense, like crazy, crazy tears. I don't even remember crying this much in my entire life ever. It just completely emptied me out. And I'm sitting there bawling. And she's asking me, I want you to go to your safe place for a moment. And I want you to just feel the energy around you. I want you to feel the people around you and understand who's there. How are they comforting you? How are you talking to them? And I want you to go to your container and dump all the crap, all the things that you don't care about, all the things that are just unnecessary, that are venomous and toxic and evil and hateful inside of you. And we talked a lot about that. So I'd put those things in my container, knowing I'm not just deleting them out of my life forever. I'm placing them somewhere else to be protected, that at any time I can go and revisit when I need. Because we're not just deleting them and forgetting them, we're processing them and moving them somewhere else. So this bilateral stimulation's popping off in my head, and I'm closing my eyes, I'm exploding tears everywhere. And then she says, I want you to talk to your wise mind and see what advice would they give you objectively from that person's perspective. What would they tell you in this moment? How would they advise you to go from here to here to here to here? Is there a certain set of steps that they give you? Is there a certain phrase or quote that they would usually say? What does that look like for you? So we walked through all of that, and it was unbelievable. I couldn't believe how much it really helped me and how much it helped me process all the crap that was just stewing up inside of me for a few years. And by the time I finished that session, I just felt like $1 billion. I felt like a brand new person. I felt like I had all this clarity. I had all this insight. I had this new set of tools to work with if I ever get in a place where I'm really, really freaked out and not able to process what's going on in my brain. And it just added a lot of security and a sense of safety and strength around all of this trauma that I was kind of carrying over my shoulders. And again, everyone does it differently. Some psychologists will have you follow a finger or an object or something like that. Other people will have you close your eyes and use these little vibrating probes. There's all sorts of different approaches. There's no one best way, but different things work differently for different people. So if you happen to be struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, if you have severe anxiety, depression, there's a certain phobia you're dealing with, this could lead to absolutely tragic outcomes. I mean, people have taken their lives because of carrying this stuff. People have done extreme acts of violence and hurt towards other people because they're carrying so much hatred with them. And I'm not saying it's an excuse. I'm not saying that's a reason that they're allowed to do that, but it's our responsibility to deal with these things in healthy and constructive ways. So I genuinely believe that this can 100% save a life or completely change your life for the better if you happen to be dealing with something like I was. It's not for everyone. It's not going to immediately solve every person's problems 100% of the time, but I genuinely think it's really helpful for a lot of people out there. So if you've never heard of it, I highly encourage you, check it out, do some Google searching, see if there's someone in your area in person who you can go to that specializes in EMDR therapy specifically. I truly hope this was helpful for you and that it provided some foundational understanding of what EMDR is and how it can impact your life for the better. Share this with someone who might need it, or do it yourself if it's something that could really benefit you in the long run. Remember to take care of yourselves. Remember to take care of those around you. And for all things psychology to help you think, feel, and perform better, stay tuned right here on Psychology of Living.